was just so naturally curious about the outdoors and nature and wildlife, realising that the benefits of nature, that you can do that and it can bring more of a balance and make you a better person in the rat race to an extent. So I think that for me, I talk about it as a therapy for me, but it's also a passion. We do need a different approach, and it's finding the balance. And I think we need to do more of that in schools and in the curriculum as well. It shouldn't be an afterthought. There is scientific evidence about the benefit of nature exposure and what it does to the mind.
If you have ever wanted to know or understand why we should be asking for nature's help on mindsets, adventures, and more, then you're in the right place. So, welcome to Maximise Nature. Today's guest is the host of the Adventure Diaries podcast, Chris Watson. If you have ever wanted to know why people like Chris and I love the outdoors and outdoor conversations, then the Adventure Diaries podcast is a great place to start. From hearing about authentic stories to going out and experiencing them for himself, the Adventure Diaries podcast is for me like no other. We're going to delve into the thought process behind his adventures, as well as how he thinks nature can provide a helping hand to people like you and me. We can take the good thoughts and put them in a travel bag, ready to use in our next adventure. So with that, here's episode 11 of the Maximise Nature podcast. First of all, thank you so much, Chris, for taking your precious time and coming on here. I know how busy you are at the moment. So, Chris, can you give the listeners a little insight into who you are?
Firstly, thanks, Max, for the invite. It's an honour to be on the show today. As a fellow podcaster, I know what goes into the coordination and the prepping. So, firstly, thank you. Yeah, so Chris Watson, I live in just in the outskirts of Glasgow in Scotland, and yeah, I host the Adventure Diaries podcast, which I've been hosting since November 2023, so just over a year or so. And as I said, that the purpose of that show is all about bringing authentic stories of adventure, exploration, and the natural world, with the purpose of inspiring and entertaining and encouraging people to go and do some adventure, live more adventurously and really experience the outdoors and everything that nature has to offer. So, yeah, that's yeah. And I like I say, I live outside Glasgow. I spend a lot of time in the Highlands.
Getting up into the Highlands is so much fun.
Yeah,
you don't really get that in like the southeast, apart from the South Downs. But yeah.
Well, I'm very fortunate that we also have a little kind of holiday caravan place just at Loch Lomond as well. So we are fortunate enough that we can escape the stresses of everyday life on a weekend. But yeah, I think my heart's pretty full at the moment. I'm literally just back from a weekend on the Isle of Skye, and it was the first time I had been to the Isle of Skye. Been to many of the other islands, but never been to Skye. And yeah, I'm just in love with it. It's fantastic.
It looks really cool. Whenever I see it on was it on top? It was on Top Gear once, wasn't it? I think. Does that have a special up there?
Oh, maybe
I don't know.
Check that out. Actually.
But it looks really, really, really cool. How did going outdoors with your family inspire you to ask people questions about the outdoors?
Just through exposure to the outdoors as a young kid. It's kind of the only privilege that we really had as a young, or I had as a young kid. We didn't come from a family that had much money or a lot of things going for it then, unfortunately. But access to the river, access to the outdoors, the Highlands on occasion. I didn't get to go as much as I was when I was younger, but I did have a lot of time outdoors, a lot of time at the beach, a lot of time at the river, and I was just so naturally curious about the outdoors and nature and wildlife, and that's always been with me, even though I've taken a very different career path over the years. I kind of reignited a lot of that passion, and And I've always read in books, and I've always watched the TV programs, and I've always been, even though I've had the IT career, which I still have, I've always just had these, this is just what I do outside of that. And then I just thought, kind of brought those things together. I do a lot of presentation. I talk to a lot of people at my day job, and I just had the idea about doing that so rather than having that conversation that pays the bills, what about having a conversation that really lights my heart and my mind? And that was it. Really wanted to have a different conversation, because you see people on podcasts, you see people in TV programs, and sometimes there's a recurring thread or a theme, and they answer the same types of questions and conversations. And my mind tends to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. So, and I wish that people would, and I just wanted to, just have a conversation about maybe all the little idiosyncrasies and things that might not be compelling enough for a TV program, but I want to know what they're doing off camera and how they got into it, and why they chose that life, and can they give me an idea about something that I could go and do and have a similar experience. So yeah, I just wanted to have different conversations. I wanted to hold myself accountable to not just listen and learn from these people, but go and act on it as well. So go and experience some of that nature, that wildlife, those outdoor experiences. So it's kind of, that's been a thread, and I want to pay that forward as well, which is a bit of a format in my show. I want to make sure that I can serve others as well. So whilst I feel, I want to be the evangelist for this, quite frankly, I want others to enjoy it as much as I do.
Can I just say that your pay it forward concept is really, really cool? Like, the first time I ever listened to your podcast, I think when I first researched you, it was such a nice way to share it with everyone. And I think for me, that goes back to what you were saying a couple of minutes ago about just having those conversations out of office hours. So you really get to know a person and what they like and what they're interested in, etc. But yeah, and for any of my listeners currently listening, go and check out his podcast. It really is quite cool. He has so many inspiring guests. Yeah, go and check it out.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, that pay it forward, it is about, because charities and contribution to causes can be quite a difficult thing for people, and you can't give everything to everyone. And a lot of the big, the big well-known, like the World Wildlife Fund or 1% for the Planet, all these types of things come up, and they do come up, and they are valuable. But you get all the little things about, like the Savo Trust in the parts of Africa, that people don't realise that they're helping farmers live alongside wildlife in a constructive manner, and the money goes direct to the farmers and things like that. So there's, if you've got a passion for that and you wanted to contribute, there are other ways to do that, and that's, bringing these stories, bringing these causes to life is, my little way of trying to serve others as well. So yeah, go and listen to my show as well.
Nice. Yeah, like you said, the little charities, one guest can be completely different from the other and shout out a different thing. And like you were saying, every single conversation is important, but it's just about how you get it out there, really. Why do you think more people need to understand the true benefit of their own outdoor experiences? And do we need a different approach for the differing generations?
Yeah, to the latter point, we do, and I'll come back to that. But in terms of the benefit of the outdoor experiences, I think, I've said in other podcasts, I'm a good example of being that patient zero to that. We live in such a fast, frenetic world these days, and most people probably don't have a career in the outdoors, or let me rephrase that. They probably don't. Not a lot of people actually do what they're so passionate about, right? And because you have to go out and earn a wage, you have to do, you get caught in the rat race to an extent. And I think realising the benefits of nature, that you can do that, and it can bring more of a balance and make you a better person in the rat race to an extent. So I think that for me, I talk about it as a therapy for me, but it's also a passion, and the benefits of green space, blue space, being out in nature, touching the elements, and I don't mean just getting soaked in a hike in the Highlands, but if you're out, and I don't mean to be woo-woo, but touch a tree, when I'm kayaking, I touch the water, I want those sensory experiences to a degree, but, scientifically, and I would butcher this if I tried to be very specific, but there is scientific evidence about the benefit of nature exposure and what it does to the mind, and the types of things that the trees give off and you inhale, and I think the Japanese call it forest bathing. I think is one of the more terms that's been bandied about in the press over the past few years. But there's a lot to be said about it. I mean, I feel that going for a walk, even just I walk the dog. I've got a new puppy now, and I find the benefits of that in the morning. It's just fantastic, and we do it through the forest and through the golf course, and it's therapeutic, and people need to make more time for it. And as a father, to the second point about different generations, we live, and I work in IT. I know the benefit of it, and I try to cultivate, that curiosity from a technology perspective with my little one. But I need to find the balance to make sure that she gets out into nature and she can try and understand the different types of flora and fauna and the benefits of being out there and hugging a tree or doing whatever it is, or coming out hiking with us, that she can do that, and then she can go and feel that she's earned her time sitting, on an iPad for a couple of hours or whatever it may be. Not that I'm condoning that necessarily, each to their own, but we do need a different approach, and it's finding the balance. And I think we need to do more of that in schools and in the curriculum as well. It shouldn't be an afterthought, really.
100%. Like, for me, really amazing how let's say a 5-minute outside break helps the mind regenerate itself. For me, and what I feel like my brother's school did really well is they had 45-minute lessons. They purposely put their next lesson on the other side of the school, so they had to walk around and go outside for like a little bit. And hence why their school grades were absolutely outstanding. Wow. Like, you don't realise it, but it's the little changes. It's really like throwing caution to the wind, as it were. It's the little benefits that really do make a massive difference. And for me, it's why I keep banging on about my podcast slogan as get out and explore what's beyond your front door. Just like you said, and I completely agree, we just need to go outside. Maybe 10 minutes a day or something?
Yeah.
Something like that.
It can be literally outside your own door, and it can be looking at things a little bit differently. So even as I said, taking a new puppy on a walk, I kind of mixed it up a little bit and went a slightly different route. And I've been curious. I mean, it is just me. I'm a bit quirky in that way, but taking a different route because I seen a tree that I quite liked, and I kind of I started, and then just being curious about it and looking, and allowed my mind to wander, and picking bits of things that have fallen off the tree, and and that's a 40-minute walk. Come back and I feel like just ready to tackle the day. Do that in the morning. So I mean, it doesn't need to be grand. I know you've had some. You think you Niall McCann on as well, didn't you? Who's a guest on my show. So if you're probably looking at other guests, I would maybe reach out to Alistair Humphreys as well. So he talks a lot about micro adventures and being outdoors in nature, and that's where I get a lot of inspiration for. So these guys talk about, they do grand adventures, grand exposure to nature, but they very much propose and recommend much more closer to home and micro type stuff as well, because the benefits are just as impactful.
Crazy. Why do you think podcasting is one of the best ways to share stories about nature, having such a successful podcast? And I also obviously wish you luck for is it American Awards? Is that what it is, sorry?
Yeah, the Outdoor Media Summit. The voting window's closed, and I think I'm not up there, but so it closed on Friday. Friday, Saturday. But they haven't reached out yet, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So thank you.
You never know, no worries.
We will see.
Why do you think podcasting is one of the best ways to share stories about nature?
I think it's a great medium, not just for nature, for lots of topics. And I think podcast is a medium. It doesn't have a big discovery engine, so you need to go out and you need to go out and find your audience. Your audience doesn't find you. When you go out and kind of find them and show them what you've got, and they take that decision to download an episode or follow the show, it's so much more captive, and it's so much more in a way that they're not scrolling necessarily through social media and flicking it, looking at something and moving on to the next thing. They're making that decision to sit with you on an aeroplane for an hour or so, or sit on a train for an hour or so, or sit in the car or the tube or whatever it is. They're actively choosing to listen to you for that period of time. And as long as you can keep them engaged enough in that conversation, I think that almost like one-to-one relationship, even though it's not it's a bi-directional conversation. I think if you've got a powerful message, it's entertaining enough, people will take that to heart, and they will take action on things like that. And because I am a podcast listener, I have been for 20 years or so, since it first came to be. I listen to various different shows, and I learn so much from it. And I think it's the best medium to capture attention and really get people to take things not seriously, but if you've got a message about maximising exposure to nature and all that good stuff, it's the best way to get to people, because we're in such a attention deficit state of affairs at the moment with all the social media apps, and that long form in the ear content is a great way to build connection and build a network. And so I'll put my soapbox away, but I think that's why I think it's a great medium, and it's why I chose that medium. First and foremost, I am branching out into YouTube to try and show the video versions of what we're doing, but it's more the podcast, the audio version, because I feel we get a better connection to each other.
100%. Like, if I'm right, I don't feel like there's any other medium that can get close to a conversation like a podcast can do.
Yeah.
And what you were saying there with the attention deficit, sorry, that's the wrong word, is that you can just have it on in the background. And because we live in an age where our mind does flitter because of the whole scrolling epidemic and everything, you will pick up on maybe 3 facts, but those 3 facts will come maybe minute 10, minute 30, minute 40, but it's kind of the best way to get it out there, because what's that? Oh, that's it. Go follow it, something like that.
Exactly, because it's a very valid point, Max, because I do that as well. I'll be listening to something, and then I'll sometimes take my phone out and I'll put some notes into my notepad. Like, I want to go and double check that when I get home. If I'm walking the dog, and if I'm listening to someone's podcast, I'll type some stuff and I'll go back and I'll go and search it. And so I do pay attention, and that's me as a listener of other shows. So it's a great medium, and I think it's only really getting
bigger,
getting going, because I interviewed a guy, I am the host of the Amateur Traveller podcast. I interviewed him on my first season, and he's been going for 20-something years, and he thought he was late to the party when he started. And I still get that feeling like, is it too late? But, it's not. There's, the listener base is growing and the shows are still popping up. So it's a great medium, and I hope it continues to evolve and grow. And it's an exciting time.
Yeah, I to be fair, I think it will, and I think I don't even think we're anywhere near like the peak of it. Or what's the thing at the end of the wave? The like crest of it, as it were.
Yeah, the kind of bell. We're not even at the top of the bell curve. We're nowhere near that. I don't think.
No, but if you get in, as I'd say we are doing, and just build it, then it will be amazing. And like the conversations I've been able to have Like, I genuinely started it, June last year? And the conversations I've had are crazy.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. I'd say just keep plugging at it. It's the best decision I've ever made. I've made some really good friends through the show. I'm starting to go to a lot of the events and networking with people. And I'm sure we'll come on to some of the benefits of that and some of your questions in time. But it's I think if you stick at it and you do it for the right reasons, I think it's very rewarding in many, many ways.
I will just say, just before we go on to the next question, I find it so useful because I've just started Atkins as my first job, and having that as like a conversation starter, easy. So much fun.
Yeah, that is it's weird because it started getting around my job because not a lot of people knew I was doing this, and then all of a sudden people start asking. And you get all the usual labels, but people are really interested, and yeah, it is exciting.
What are some of the challenges you have faced when out in the wild, and what's the biggest lesson you have learned from these?
Don't be complacent. Don't have an ego. Be humble. I've had a couple of humbling experiences, one of which was capsizing in the Atlantic Ocean on a kayak, not paying attention. I shouldn't have been as complacent as I was, and I paid the price and learnt my lesson. And I've learnt my lesson to the point I know my routine when I get into a kayak, and my pre and post kind of trip / expedition rituals and stuff. So yeah, just be prepared. Don't have an ego. Be humble. And I think if I think about maybe like hiking and stuff like that, good examples being the Highlands. You need to be dialed in with the weather forecasting and planning and preparing to make sure you have the right apps, and you do all that forecasting and stuff, because particularly in Scotland it is very, very unpredictable. You could be sunshine 1 minute and you've got howling wind, wind chill, 0 -2, whatever it be, and if you're not prepared for that, then you are in trouble. So there's no shame in admitting when you get things wrong. I've turned back a number of times on the hills, a bit annoyed at myself because I wasn't as prepared. So it's all a learning curve. The biggest lesson for me is preparing and planning. And I've learnt that over the years to build the kind of knowledge and skills a little bit more. But don't be scared to turn back. Don't be scared to ask for advice. And go and get help. Go and learn experience. Go and get guides to teach you things. Go on courses and stuff like that. So don't think you know it all, because I can't remember who it was that said in my show, but nature doesn't give a bit about you. It'll turn on a sixpence, and you will be at its mercy. So yeah, don't take things for granted. Be humble. Don't be scared to put your hand up and ask questions as well. And if anyone goes out on like guided trips and things like that, don't be scared to ask questions, and don't, because I've done that over the years. Sometimes I've been like, oh, I wasn't quite sure then, and then the next thing you know, you're in a bit of a pickle. So yeah, don't be scared to ask for help. Be humble and be prepared.
That is some great advice, not only for the outdoors, but for life in general. There's no stupid question whatsoever. Yep. Just ask it. Getting that experience under your belt that really does help, like guide you. Just same with everything, really. Just build that experience. And then bingo.
Exactly, go for it. If you don't ask, you don't get. And you see this, because there's a lot of crap on Instagram at the minute. I don't know why it seems to be popping up in my feed. It's like, AI, read all these books and be the smartest person in the room. Who wants to be the smartest person in the room? Because you don't get to learn anything, and you just come across as a prat. So, don't be scared of asking questions, or 9 times out of 10, the question that you've probably got in the back of your mind that other people are thinking about. And it's different being like that in a classroom or an office environment versus being in the wild or being on a trip or being taken somewhere. So, be prepared, be your own person, have strength and conviction to ask questions and put your hand up and build that resilience where you don't really care about what the outside world or the people may say about you putting your hand up or asking for. I mean, I've done everything. I put the first time I put a wetsuit on, I put it on back to front. You know, it's like I've done this. Like, you know, I've been there and done it all. You know, it's there's things that are just counterintuitive, and if you just assume, then you know, if someone hadn't fixed my wetsuit, I might have been in a bit of bother. You know, in very cold water. So, but yeah, just yeah.
To be fair, you tend to enjoy it more if you ask questions.
Yeah.
Because then your mind just ticks on. And I mean, when I went skydiving, I almost lost this ring because I almost didn't say, do you reckon I should take this off? He's like, yeah, you probably should.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a nightmare to try and find. But anyway.
Yeah, I've had all sorts of, but it's a learning thing. It comes with experience and confidence and stuff. But yeah, sometimes the best questions are the ones that you're always scared to ask, and then you can take that pride internally and you can pat yourself on the back, like, I asked that question that nobody else wanted to ask.
Yeah, exactly. So you, just to sum up for the listeners, be prepared, don't be afraid to ask questions, and just flip and go for it.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, you'll enjoy the outdoors more if you just go for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, what would you say is the best thing about having conversations about nature, aside from obviously learning more? And what's one piece of outdoor advice that sticks with you whenever you go outdoors?
Yeah, I think the best thing about having the conversations is for me, it lights me up because it's something I'm just so passionate about. It fills my heart and my mind for days and weeks on end, months on end, even after a conversation. So, but it keeps me accountable for living a fuller life. You know, I've said it's become a bit of a soundbite now, but you know, I'm scared about living a life half lived. And I think through doing this, it's an ever-present, ever-constant reminder about how wide and big the world is and how much nature and how much adventure and how much exploration there is still to be had. And other people are like you and I, you know, not just the David Attenboroughs of the world or the Steve Backshalls or the Niall McCanns or whatever, that, you know, there's people like you and I that are going out and doing this, and these constant reminders that every man and every woman can do this. I think it keeps me accountable, it keeps me connected to that world, and it allows me to do things that are much more unique. You know, as an example, I've probably had 3 guests that now I'm actively planning trips based on the conversations that they've had. So I'm planning to go to Guyana next year to do a bit of a jungle expedition, loads of biodiversity, wildlife and all that, and nature mixed into, you know, hopefully down the Essequibo River. And I'm currently planning a future expedition to the Okavango Delta through conversations that I had with a filmmaker, Ollie Pemberton, who I still kind of keep in touch with a little. And, you know, these conversations have led me to taking action. And me taking action, I'm bringing my friends and stuff along on these trips as well. And, yeah. And the best piece of advice to answer the final point of that was I had a guy on season 1, I think it was, Cyril Derimo, who is a kayaker. He's a French guy living in the US, and he said to me he loves planting the seed of adventure, because if I can plant that in a kid at 14, imagine what they'll do in 10 years' time. And that soundbite has stuck with me ever since. I've plastered it all over my socials, and I continue to, you know, put it out on email, and anyone that will listen, that's the thing. If I can plant that seed of adventure through my show and remind people to listen to conversations like we had with Cyril, that's the best piece of advice, because I'm doing that with my daughter. I'm trying to keep different generations engaged in this world and show them what the world is like outside of just sitting playing computer games or sitting on an iPad.
That might be one of the best pieces of advice that we've had on this podcast, honestly. Like, you're so right as well. Because even the slightest little, you could do that every like 2 or 3 months. Yeah. Eventually, you'll be like, why?
Well, Max,
you know what?
I never thought 2 years ago, if you'd asked me if I was planning a trip to go to, in the wilderness of Guyana and the Amazon rainforest, I would have probably laughed at that. And I now run organised kayaking expeditions as well. So, and if you'd have said that 2 years ago, I would have laughed. So it just opens up a world of possibilities that I want others to experience it as well.
That's exactly why we do what we do, isn't it, really? Like, you never know how one conversation can just go gone.
Yep. Exactly.
Who or what were your outdoor inspirations growing up, and has this changed throughout the years?
In terms of inspiration, David Attenborough, obviously, that's the top of the shelf, cliche, watched all that stuff. And it's true, I loved it all. I also had a real affinity for Michael Palin and a lot of his travel programs on the BBC. He went to the Himalayas, he done pole to pole, around the world, I think was the other one. He quite a few shows, but that getting access to various parts of the world, the wild, and showing you what adventure and exploration was like was fantastic. But I mean, I also watched in the UK like the Really Wild show when I was younger, so Michaela Strachan. Also, a lot of exposure to like David Bellamy, Bill Oddie, all that kind of stuff. Steve Irwin, as I started to get a little bit older, all the National Geographic stuff, Animal Planet. I mean, I just consumed it all. But a big inspiration for me as a kid was my uncle. Actually, who passed away. He's no longer with us, but my uncle Ricky, he cultivated that in me when I was a kid. In my lasting memories of him showing me like a bird's nest in the hedge row at his little house, and we were monitoring it for days and weeks on end when the chicks had hatched, and and then he bought me a book on birds and that, and then watching Sunday TV, all the nature programs, and it's developed over years. I mean, it's I've got such a love for all the work that Steve Backshall does at the minute, and he actually followed me on Instagram, which was a bit of a pinch me moment, and we exchanged some messages. So it's a funny old world because nowadays, because of what you and I are doing, we have a platform where you're on, and even on like the socials and stuff, there's so many people in this space now that are not getting the attention, but some that are starting to build their own journey in their path and getting access to them and seeing the great work that they're doing and having connections with them. They're less known. And like I mentioned Ollie Pemberton, some of the work that he does, and he's now, he's creating some fantastic stuff, and he's not on mainstream TV, for example. So there's lots of inspiration, and Ollie's one of the inspirations for me now, booking a trip to the Okavango Delta to go and do kayaking through the delta and experience the wildlife and the nature. And my inspirations are growing, and the inspirations are like the everyman now. They're not just the big TV personalities.
Genuinely, my first inspiration was Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones. I just thought that was sick. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Like, genuinely, the only reason I ever was like, you know what, I might study geography was what's his first film? I can't remember, but it's definitely
Raiders
there.
Of the Lost Ark.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it just sparked from there.
I mean, I loved Indiana Jones movies when I was younger as well, and I kind of wanted to do geography, but I had a bit of a shitty teacher at school, and it kind of put me off a little bit. But probably wasn't as brave and braver or as resilient as I am now to really kind of push that. But I did have a real passion for that when I was younger. But I also loved the Goonies, which was a bit of a favourite of mine, and them going off on adventures and stuff. That's always kind of stuck with me as well.
It goes back to the point, it can come from anywhere. It's just what you're exposed to, really, and it's part of the reason we have these conversations. What is one of your favourite treats to have when you're going outdoors? Sweet. Sweet. Like chocolate bar or something.
That's a good question. I'll give you two answers. I always take protein bars, but I wouldn't say the brand, but I do have a guilty pleasure, and it's a double decker which those in the UK will be well known about. But yeah, I always tend to sneak a little double decker into my bag somewhere. I know people like Haribos and Mars bars and Snickers and all that stuff, but I like the old school double deckers.
Speaking of sweet treats, like the infamous Mars bar and double deckers, let's swap some treats for some truths in a game I like to call the Sweet Truth. So, Chris, your task is to tell me 3 things, 1 truth and 2 falsehoods about any experience you've had in nature. Either I get the sweet victory of picking the truth, or you get the sweet victory of persuading me, to pick incorrectly. 1 truth and 2 falsehoods. Are you ready to play?
Yep, go for it. I visited the Sahara Desert and I was kidnapped. I again visited the Sahara Desert and I bought a camel and rode it across the desert. And thirdly, I visited the Sahara Desert and someone tried to exchange my wife for a camel.
That's crazy. You love the Sahara Desert. I mean, it may not love you, but anyway. Right. What did you name the camel?
Nope.
Okay. Right.
So the things that are consistent here is me and my wife were in the Sahara Desert.
Yeah. I'm aware. Right. How many people kidnapped you? 0. Okay, so that's okay. So that's definitely a lie. You got kidnapped. You brought a camel. I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm about to go with my gut on this channel. I'm gonna go with someone tried to. Was it by? What was it? What was the third one?
By my wife.
I'm gonna go with that. As what did you say? Someone tried to or
tried to.
You know what? For the plot, I'm going to go with the third one as the truth.
And you're correct. Yeah, I wasn't kidnapped. Well, I kind of thought we were at one point, but we didn't. We got mugged. And well, that's a story for another day. But I inquired about a camel is probably the simplest way to put it. And then that inquirement seemed to turn into a barter where I was forced camels and they wanted to take my wife. And that took a little help to diffuse and clarify the situation. So yeah, just be aware of the customs and in places like
that's
that. That's
crazy.
Yeah, it was at the ends of the earth, what felt like the ends of the earth. People that are living like they have done for thousands of years don't need Westerners looking at their camels thinking they're going to buy them, especially when they have a pretty wife in tow. So, and that's no disrespect to those nomads or those people that live in that area. It was a confusing situation that I would not like to repeat.
Okay, so for the listeners, stay away from the Sahara Desert, okay? Enjoy it in the films, just, yeah. Avoid it if you can.
Yeah, because I'm not Indiana Jones. I was well out of my comfort zone in that situation. So, yeah.
Now, Chris, for the listeners, when you got to that viewpoint, not in the Sahara Desert, obviously, what high or viewpoint or high point of your adventure? What do you remember about that moment? Just so people listening can live the experience vicariously through you.
Well, as we said earlier, Max, I'm literally just back from the Isle of Skye, and that's just so prominent in my mind and my heart at the minute. So, and it was a fairly relaxing weekend. We didn't do too much strenuous adventure, but we did hike up to the Old Manor Store. For anyone that hasn't seen that, go and Google it, go and look at some videos. It is a very dramatic landmark. It only took about an hour, I think, 40 minutes to hike up to it. But the viewpoint from that is spectacular. And on the way up, I seen at least some sea eagles too. which we're flying around the coast. And the magnitude and the expanse of looking out across the ocean from that viewpoint, and the clouds parting and the sun shining through, like, because the Old Manor Store, for anyone that might be seeing this, it looks a little bit like that at points, and the lights kind of shining through that. It was quite godly. Come to Scotland, go to the Isle of Skye, go to the Old Manor Store, and enjoy yourself. And keep an eye out for wildlife, sea eagles, otters, all the rest of it. It's fantastic. Yeah, I was going to say, if you have a similar experience to I, you'll still be thinking about it days later. It's phenomenal. But yeah, do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing what nature can hand to you on a plate, isn't it? Like, some of those experiences are crazy. Like, I mean, just avoid the Sahara Desert. I will just say that again. But no, some of the best experiences I've had out in nature come from the simplest things. So I was lucky enough to go to St. Lucia. We were zip lining. We got told when we got off one of the, what do you call them, lines or whatever, that there was a 10-foot, I think it was 10-foot anaconda about 5 minutes before we got on. I'm like, jeez. No, okay. I don't need that.
Yeah, wow.
It's amazing what nature can, give you, really. Where is your next adventure? And how can people... Oh, sorry, no. Where is your next adventure?
I've got quite a few little things lined up this year. So the one that's probably the next one is I'm organising my second mini kayaking expedition up in the northwest of Scotland. So the kind of rugged northwest across from Arisaig, which... so there's probably 6-7 of us going on that multi-day adventure, and it's in June, so the weather should be good. Hopefully get a bit of sunshine in Scotland, maybe for a couple of hours somewhere, and hopefully see some, we'll see all the usual sea eagles, otters, seals, all that kind of stuff. So, I'm really looking forward to that, because this part, I mean, I'm probably sounding like I'm evangelising for Scotland, and I don't.
Go ahead.
I have no shame. I'm proudly Scottish, but it is a fantastic part of the world. I've been in various parts of the world, but that part, the west coast of Scotland, is wild. And it has a lot to offer, so I'm really excited about that. And because there's friends that came along last year for the first time, got to experience that hiking, camping, kayaking for the first time, and they're back again for another trip this year. So I'm really excited about organising and facilitating that as a group of friends. So.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, I love a good kayak. It's the best way for me anyway, to go through water.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just.
Yeah. Hopefully, if that outdoor media thing summit comes to be for the podcast, then I'll hopefully go to Colorado this year. And if I do that, then I would like to go and do river rafting, maybe down the Colorado River. So. But if that doesn't happen, then I'm planning to go to Norway. So hopefully the Lofoten Islands, maybe try and do some orca hunting to see if we can catch some of them in the water whilst we kayak. Quite a few things lined up this year.
One last task. Please write down and send me one nature-based phrase that I must get into the next podcast without my guest knowing. And did you spot what my last guest gave me to get in this podcast?
Was it a nature-based phrase?
Yep.
I did not know. Can you tell me what it is?
I'm about to, yeah. Drum roll, please. It was from Sir Shapotty on Instagram, and it was throw caution into the wind.
Ah, right. I didn't even notice at all. Excellent.
Chris, thank you so much for coming on the episode. The work that your podcast does in getting its own message across to your audience is truly inspiring. If you like listening to what Chris Watson from the Adventure Diaries had to say, please follow him in the links down below at Adventure Diaries on Instagram. Thank you. Thank you again for joining us on the Maximise Nature podcast. I hope you had fun. Until next time, get out and explore what's beyond your front door. Goodbye, guys.
Excellent. Thanks, Max.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow Maximise Nature on Instagram for more nature-based content. See you next time.